I was hurting so bad I couldn't move. And literally once I got the courage to order an Uber, call an ambulance, it came.
A dorm room, 3 roommates, and a sound none of them expected to hear at 2 in the morning. A baby crying, not from a phone, not from a TV, from inside their own suite on the campus of the University of Tampa in the early hours of April 27, 2024.
A quiet dorm room at the University of Tampa became the site of a tragic mystery on April 27, 2024. Briana Moore's roommates heard the sound of a crying baby and discovered blood in a shared bathroom. They called for help. When the ambulance arrived, Briana denied being pregnant. But the next day, everything changed. Inside a trash bin, roommates found a bloody towel wrapped around a dead newborn, and police responded.
By the time anyone understood what that sound actually was, there was blood in the shared bathroom, an ambulance in the parking lot, and a young woman inside who told paramedics she wasn't pregnant. She was wrong, or she was lying. Those are still the only 2 options on the table. This is the case of Briana Moore, and if you've spent any time in this niche, you already know the shape of it. A college student, a newborn. A story that ends somewhere between a tragedy and a homicide charge. What makes this one worth sitting with isn't just what happened in that bathroom. It's what happened after. Because after nearly 2 years locked up, Briana Moore is free right now, walking around waiting for a trial that's going to decide the rest of her life. Let's get into how we got here. The basic facts aren't in dispute. On April 27, 2024, Briana's roommates heard a baby crying inside their dorm suite. They went looking. They found blood in the bathroom. They called for help. When EMTs arrived, Briana told them she wasn't pregnant. That claim didn't survive the next 24 hours. Investigators found a newborn wrapped in a bloody towel inside a trash bin. The baby was dead.
The autopsy revealed the baby had suffered multiple fractured ribs and lung hemorrhaging, with the medical examiner ruling the cause of death as homicide by asphyxia.
The autopsy is where this case turns from a tragedy into a criminal case. The medical examiner found multiple fractured ribs and hemorrhaging in the baby's lungs. Cause of death was ruled a homicide, specifically asphyxia, not stillbirth, not natural causes. Asphyxia. That word alone tells you why prosecutors moved the way they did. Briana Moore was arrested and charged with aggravated manslaughter and child neglect.
Briana Moore spent nearly 2 years in custody, charged with aggravated manslaughter and child neglect. But now, she's been released.
Here's the thing about these cases, and there have been enough of them now that you start to notice the pattern. A young woman, usually a student, gives birth alone, in secret, and a newborn ends up dead. The defense almost always circles back to one question: did she know she was pregnant? Sometimes the answer is genuinely murky. A woman in Ohio said she had no idea she was carrying a child until she delivered it in a hospital bathroom during an unrelated visit. A high school student in another well-known case said the same thing, gave birth in her bedroom during prom season, and was ultimately acquitted after a jury heard the full picture. In a more recent case out of another college town, prosecutors argued the opposite, that the woman had researched pregnancy symptoms and knew exactly what was happening to her body.
I want to take a look at a few of those cases. Alexi Treviso. This was a young woman who gave birth in a hospital, but claimed she did not know that she was pregnant, that it was a surprise to her. Now, she was in the hospital for back pain and left the room, went to a bathroom, locked herself in, and gave birth to the child. The question is, was the child born dead or alive? What was the cause of death of the child? That's what the trial will be about. But in that case, Alexi Treviso is saying, I didn't know that I was pregnant, that it was some sort of a surprise to her. And that's an interesting issue for a jury to deal with and for the defense to deal with.
Briana Moore's case sits closest to that last one. Her claim, as it's been reported, is that she didn't know she was pregnant until she was already in labor. Whether a jury buys that is going to depend heavily on 2 things: expert testimony about her state of mind and her own words. And we have her own words because she sat down with investigators and answered questions. We'll get to that. First, let's talk about how a woman charged with killing her own child ends up walking free before trial even starts. This is where the case gets interesting from a legal standpoint. because it's not really about her guilt or innocence anymore. It's about geography and money. Briana Moore spent close to 2 years in custody after her arrest. Then a judge granted her release on bond. The catch was, she isn't from Florida. Her entire family is in Mississippi, several generations deep in one town. She has no ties to Hillsborough County beyond the university she no longer attends. So the moment she's out, the obvious next step is going home. Except a defendant can't just leave the jurisdiction that's prosecuting her, especially not on a homicide charge. At the hearing where this got argued, her defense attorney laid out exactly why keeping her in Florida made no practical sense. Briana was, in the attorney's words, indigent. Her family had resources, sure, but that didn't mean she personally did. She was 21 years old with 48 cents to her name, the balance refunded to her when she walked out of jail. No job, no local address, an expired driver's license that lapsed while she was locked up, no passport. According to her attorney, there was no realistic way for her to run anywhere even if she wanted to.
Yes, Your Honor. So some additional points that I wanted to make sure that we didn't go over in court yesterday. Briana Moore is indigent. Just because her family has resources and might have the ability to do so does not mean that she has the ability to do so. She's 21 years old. She's a legal adult. Right now she has 48 cents to her name of what was refunded to her from the jail. The entire family is in Mississippi. That's where she was born, raised. Family has been there for generations. She has 5 potential different houses that she could live at there. She currently has no ties to Hillsborough County. And given all of the publicity that has been happening in this case, I don't know that she'd be able to actually be a productive member of society if she wanted to get a part-time job or do other things as well to not be harassed if she is out in public in Hillsborough County. She has her family members. Her family is here today.
The prosecution wasn't buying the reassurance. Their argument boiled down to a simple worry: once she's back in Mississippi, what actual leverage does anyone in Florida have over her? The prosecutor didn't accuse her outright of planning to flee. He was careful about that. But he laid out the scenario anyway, wondering out loud whether the county even had a real police presence, whether her ankle monitor could be cut off, whether a bond company would actually chase her down if she disappeared.
She moved equipment. I get the financial end of it. I do. I understand what you're talking about. I mean, she doesn't have any ties here. Her family's in Mississippi. I mean, I completely understand that. It is a financial burden. I'm not saying it's not. My concern is, let's assume she goes to equipment and she runs. And I'm not saying she's going to run, but let's just assume for a second she does. Okay? I don't know how big equipment is. I don't know if they have a police force. I'm not saying I want to batch equipment in Mississippi. But I don't, let's assume she runs. And I'm not saying she's going to. And Ms. Hodges calls or whoever picked up. I mean, I don't know if there's a police force there at all. I have no idea if there's any way to enforce that. I mean, she'd cut her monitor and fly off. And I'm not saying she's going to do that. But I mean, that's the concern of, the financial one that you're talking about is her family's there.
Then the defense did something that's honestly one of the more memorable moments in this whole hearing. They asked the judge to physically look at the ankle monitor, not describe it, look at it. The attorney told the court this wasn't some thin plastic strip you could snap with your fingers. It was several inches thick, essentially industrial. He had Briana stand up and show it to the judge directly, like Exhibit A.
Yes, I just wanted the court to actually see the monitor. It's not a normal one that this would take like some industrial strength thing to break. I'm serious. I just saw it and I can't believe it. This is a serious object. It's like a ball and chain. So if I could have her approach and just stand right there and show this is not the little thin monitor. This is several inches thick.
It's a small moment, but it tells you something about how these bond hearings actually work. Half legal argument, half theater. The state is standing on procedure and worst-case scenarios. The defense is standing on sympathy, logistics, and a $5,000 piece of plastic strapped to a client's ankle. In the end, Briana Moore was released, but not fully. She still wasn't allowed to leave Florida, which put her in a strange kind of limbo. Free, but stuck. No permanent address, no job, no family nearby, and a court that wanted proof she wasn't a flight risk before it would even consider letting her go home. That limbo produced one of the more absurd exchanges in the case. The state pointed out she legally couldn't have been released on bond without a permanent address on file. The defense pointed out that the only permanent address she had was in another state, the exact state the court didn't want her disappearing into. It's a closed loop. She can't stay because she has nowhere to live locally. She can't leave because leaving is the thing everyone is afraid of. The judge eventually gave her 7 business days to sort out a local address, with weekly monitoring reports required from her bond company after that. So that's the process. Messy, procedural, and honestly kind of unresolved. What actually moves the needle on guilt or innocence isn't any of that. It's what Briana Moore told police. Investigators sat her down for a recorded interview.
Can you tell me about the baby?
The baby?
Listen, you're very smart. I know this. You're a biology person, okay? So you know all that, and you know about DNA, and you know all those things, okay? We have a very young baby right now, right outside your room. You had quite the ordeal, it sounds like yesterday morning in the bathroom for a few hours, okay? Listen, we're not judging at all on this, okay? People can get in over their heads sometimes. They're not sure what to do, okay? But let's just be honest, okay?
Basically, first of all, I did not even know that I was pregnant.
Okay.
And then I just woke up not feeling good yesterday morning. So I went to the bathroom, I was puking, whatever, and then, yeah. But after like a few seconds, it was dead.
And this is where the case either falls apart for her or gets buried, depending on how you read it. She told them she didn't know she was pregnant. She said she woke up not feeling well, went to the bathroom, thought she might be sick, and then gave birth. She said the baby cried for maybe 5 seconds. She stayed in the bathroom afterward. She said she delivered the placenta too. She described sitting in the shower, not really washing anything, just sitting there, then trying to wipe up blood. Then, in her words, checking for a heartbeat and not finding one. On its own, that's a devastating story of a scared, possibly clueless 19-year-old handling something she had no idea how to handle. But the interview doesn't stay that simple.
I'd say, I really have no concept of time for like how long anything happened. But I probably held it for, I think it held maybe like 10 minutes, maybe somewhere around there.
Okay. And obviously, at some point, the baby wasn't moving anymore, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you laid the baby on the towel, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You cleaned yourself up some, cleaned baby up some, and you ended up taking a nap, and then reassessing the baby, and then determining, no, baby's, and probably were in full panic mode, is my guess at this point.
Somewhere in that window, according to her own account, the crying stopped and didn't start again. That's the detail that turns a tragic accident into a homicide case, because holding a newborn for 10 minutes and having it stop crying permanently is not a neutral fact. It's the exact window the medical examiner's findings, broken ribs and lung hemorrhaging, would need to line up with. She also told investigators she'd pulled up an Uber app and started to call an ambulance, then stopped. In her words, she just got scared and couldn't finish the call. That single detail cuts both ways. It could show panic from someone who genuinely didn't know what was happening to her. Or it could show a moment where she had a real, available option.
Once I realized it was happening, I went to the bathroom and I was hurting so bad I couldn't move. And literally once I got like the courage to like order an Uber, call an ambulance, it came.
It was coming.
It was coming.
Can I
Yeah.
say on that? You were going to order an Uber or call an ambulance?
Yeah.
You had your phone with you in the bathroom?
Yeah, I literally had the app pulled up, and then as I was typing it in, I was like, I can't. I know
This is going to be a time.
Can I ask? Because I know that the people are going to ask, okay? So you were going to call, but then it came, obviously. That's probably, you can't dial the phone while it's happening, right?
Yeah.
After it comes out and after you've held or, the baby or set it down, why didn't you grab your phone and call then?
I think I was just scared at that point. I don't know. I was just panicking.
to save that baby's life and chose not to take it. Now here's a piece of evidence the jury may never actually hear, and it's the kind of thing that explains why this case has gotten so much attention. Months before the birth, back in September of 2023, when Briana was already in the earliest stages of pregnancy, she exchanged text messages with a contact saved in her phone. The conversation, according to court filings, ended with her writing that sometimes you need a plan C. The other person responded that plan A was condoms, plan B was the pill, and plan C was to kill the kid. Briana's reply, word for word, was that plan C was her favorite.
Hey man, sometimes you need a plan C. That's coming from Briana. Sometimes you need a plan C. Then, right afterward, a couple minutes afterwards, a text from the person she's corresponding with, Kasim, who says, plan A was condoms. Plan B was the pill. Plan C was to kill the kid. Now that's coming from Kasim. Kasim is saying plan C was to kill the kid. And then, a few seconds later, Briana responds, the defendant, plan C is my favorite.
Read that again. If a jury hears that exchange, there's no explaining it away in a way that doesn't sound damning. Prosecutors wanted it in front of the jury for exactly that reason. It doesn't prove she committed a crime months later, but it's the kind of statement that turns 12 people against a defendant before the facts are even fully laid out. The judge said no.
This is the order. Even reading the text message exchange here in the light most favorable to the state, it is improper character evidence and inadmissible in the state's case in chief. So what the judge is saying, this is about her character. Like I said, you would hate her. That's about her character. So the judge has to balance. Is this really just, going after and dirtying up the defendant, making the jury not like her? Or is this proof of what she's alleged to have done?
The stand if possible. Let the physical evidence and the interview stand on their own rather than opening a door that lets prosecutors walk something devastating back into the room. So where does that leave things? Briana Moore is out of custody, staying in a state she has no ties to, waiting on an address, waiting on a trial date set for the fall. The prosecution has an autopsy that says homicide, a police interview with a 10-minute gap between a crying baby and a body with no heartbeat, and a piece of evidence they're not allowed to use yet. The defense has a scared 19-year-old, a cooperative client with no criminal record, and a decent argument that panic and denial can look a lot like guilt without actually being guilt. Juries have gone both ways on cases like this before. Sometimes they hear a story like this and see a terrified kid in an impossible situation. Sometimes they hear the same story and see someone who had every chance to make a different choice and didn't take it. We'll know more when this goes to trial. Until then, all anyone really has is a text message nobody's allowed to read out loud and a 10-minute window nobody can fully explain.
All right, this trial's coming up in November. Obviously, we'll keep our eyes on all developments. We're out of time right now. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for watching. In the meantime, especially in light of a case like this, please don't forget to hug the kids.